All right, welcome everyone to the September 27th work session of the Penfield Planning Board. Allison, would you please call the roll?
Hetzke.
Here.
Bastian.
Here.
Knauer.
Here.
Tidings.
Here.
Nersinger.
Here.
Sangster.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
Weissar.
Here.
All right, we have meeting minutes from our last meeting on September 6th. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read them or review them.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Bastian and...
I'll second.
Second by Knauer.
Hetzke.
Aye.
Bastian.
Aye.
Knauer.
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I did review the minutes of last
All right.
meeting.
Well noted. Duly noted. One of those well noted. Duly noted.
It was duly noted in a well done way. How's that sound?
Well, what should I say, Pete? You have an attorney here. Duly
Oh,
noted
he
or well noted?
reviewed the video, is what he means,
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
AJ was looking for his own grammar though.
Duly noted.
Acknowledged, how's it?
Hey. Yeah.
You're good to go. Pat on the back.
All right. You want to run through our items?
I'd love to. Number of tabled applications, I'll just do it this way. Items 1, 2, and 4 on the agenda require no action by the board. Therefore, we will go to item number 3 for Penfield Square. This is previously tabled by the board following the submittal of new materials, which included significant updates to the architectural plans and the building designs. The board requested some time to review those between the meetings as those were submitted the day before the meeting took place on the 6th. So I'd open it up to the board for some discussion on this, and could offer that a lot of this was, a lot of these changes were done as a result of the board's architectural consultant recommendations as a follow-up to the applicant's work with our consultant. So based on your conversation tonight, one option for you is to send these drawings to your consultant and have him confirm that his recommendations have been applied, and to get his final input on the architecture as proposed. In the meantime, just as a side note, the town engineering department rather, is working with the applicant on some of the storm sewers for both sanitary and stormwater. They're working on those for those designs right now. They have a meeting coming up to discuss more of the details of that, so that's still in the works in terms of the site plan review process. But again, tonight there's an opportunity to continue your review of the architecture for this project.
All right.
Would you like me to recap what was proposed last time?
Yes, and the differences between the last version that I saw and this version. I'm trying to remember the order of meetings.
That's the latest.
Yeah, go over and tell these guys what.
Okay.
How's that going?
So Doug has it up on the screen here. One of the most notable changes that you'll see is the out parcel near the intersection of Route 250 and the entrance road to the project site, which is the YMCA's entrance road. Currently, this out parcel structure was heavily redesigned following input from the architectural consultant of the board. It has a new, I would say, a rural influence. In our discussions, you can
A lodgy look.
A lodgy look, yeah. You can kind of compare it to almost the North Face store that's in down in Victor, as an example. Just some of that inspiration came from there. You see some of the timbers on the overhangs. You see a lot of the glass treatment, or wood treatment, shingled roof. So those elements are there. There's four-sided renderings towards the bottom of your package in this, well, probably on a different sheet here that we can jump to. It's on the last sheet, Doug.
Yep.
Pull it up.
Give it a second. It'll get there.
A lot to process. Cool. Doesn't like this one. There we go. So kind of give you a four-sided look of that. Kind of the flatter area of the site before it starts to drop down from Route 250 area. Keep going with this one.
No, that's
The starting point.
the siding on that. Proposes it like a barn siding. Is
I
it
believe it's
Siding.
14.
horizontal?
Lap siding,
vertical?
yep.
And my guess is that's something that's potentially proposed based on feedback, but with no tenant.
Correct. We have not heard about
It's-
a potential tenant or tenants for that building. It does have the option to be a retail store, a office use. Could have food service in there. There's parking available near it on the site plan. It's accessible to the residents that would be in the independent living portion of the project in the larger building on the site.
I like the overall look of that. I think it's a move in the right direction. Everybody else's thoughts on that, but.
Yeah, I think it adds some more character to the site, to the parcel.
Whose recommendation was it? Was it a suggestion by us or?
Chris Lopez?
Chris.
Yeah, one of his recommendations in his memo following his review of the iteration of designs before this was looking for some inspirations from, styles and architecture and buildings that you see in Penfield, from kind of the east side of town. It's rural nature. The mixed-use manual had elements of that also incorporated in it to touch on, use that as inspiration for a modern approach to older designs that we see, older historical elements.
And try to tie in some of the design of those older structures in with this type of development and make it all work.
What's the material of the siding in general for the whole project? Is it vinyl? I mean,
At this point, it's a mix. You have brick, you have vinyl, you have the lapboard siding, you have the shingled roofs that you see. I think there's a variety of different surfaces now.
The gray material on the independent living building, is that, what is that right now? What material is that?
That,
Go
you
back.
check the schedule. You gotta go probably up to the second page maybe, Doug? Or that one.
Number
Four.
one on the key.
1 and 4.
Yep,
Left
EFS
side
finish.
and horizontal. Narrow exposure.
So you have a vinyl treatment on the white color, ephes as we go into the gray elements in the porch areas there. You have cultured stone on that building, you have brick, you have the cornice at the top of those elements that kind of come forward on the building. And then you transition into the bridge element as you go into the assisted living. And the bridge element was revised from what was, it had some vinyl siding to it, and that was turned into more of a glass look, with some of those materials carrying over from the independent living building.
Yeah, it looks like the bridge is all glass now, isn't it? Both sides see-through.
Yeah, it's very transparent now.
On
Which,
the one rendering, it shows a tree behind it, and you can see the tree through it.
yep, it's a very transparent look now. And it kind of helps that in this location, you kind of have to treat it like a gateway element. You know, this is the southern portion of the mixed-use district. So as you're coming from the YMCA, which is a large trip generator, to future development, this is kind of your gateway to go north through the pedestrian spine that's proposed as part of this project.
So Doug, the dates you're showing on the drawings, what are the dates of those?
These were submitted on the 5th.
Okay, because when I show the retail building, it's not what is up there. Did you pull up the retail building? You had pulled up the lab siding?
That was on the last sheet that he was looking at, Bill.
Oh, okay. I think they have back ends. I must have been looking at a different elevation because it looked like it was all brown horizontal siding on the ends, I thought. It was a drawing you showed us, they rendered it.
Could have been a previous version. Or,
Might have been.
no.
Yeah, you have glass on both ends.
There's been a few iterations of this
Okay.
so far.
And the other item that was touched on site plan wise with this project, just as a reminder for the board, was that portion of the project to the north that was kind of a. Doug, you got the site plan up? You go zoom all the way out and then scroll up. Thank you. The portion to the north that was previously incorporated with this project on what is Bill and Debbie Wickham's home parcel to the north of this site was proposed as part of the site work where the road came in off of Road B and then kind of meandered down. That part's no longer incorporated in this project. The project site has been reduced overall as that piece of land is no longer needed for the project. So now we just have a squared off site, which also brought the assisted living and the memory care buildings further south, and also brought that bridge element further south, and where it's connecting to the independent living. So it's not so much, I don't want to say hidden by the building, but before it was further up, further north. Now it's more of a element that the public will see in that whole public square setting. So that's just a reminder from last time.
Sure. Any other comments from you guys currently on the architecture of the, let's say stick with the store for a second. You know, southeast corner, out parcel.
The rural one.
Yeah. Feel like it fits? Is it?
You want to see a previous version to kind of
Sure.
compare it to? Let me look at that. Probably have to go to the active projects folder, that would be easier.
As you head north on 250, that's one of the first things that you'll see. That
Mhm.
with the independent living structure behind.
Right.
That's next to the driveway into
Yeah.
the Y today.
Yep.
So here's a previous version of that building. Of what was proposed.
It's, to me, compared to the two, this one's pretty nondescript. This one makes a little bit more of a statement.
The newer version, the rural version.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It complements some of the things that were intended in the mixed-use manual as well.
My question is, I guess this is where the professional architecture people come into play. Does it fit with the rest of the site plan and the rest of the architecture?
Right. And that's what I'm having a hard dealing with.
Yeah, does it match at all?
Yeah. Is it so far going the opposite direction? Or fit in the rural setting, I guess?
That
What
is-
else is close, I mean, in that area that would kind of match that building? Anything left?
To the east?
I'd say it complements the Y a little bit.
Timbers.
There's a lot of glass on the Y, there's timbers on the Y. I would think that it would complement that. If you saw that building next door to the Y, you wouldn't think, what's that doing here?
Yeah.
You know,
That's
that
just
would be
me,
a
but-
really good thing for us to look at is just a model, not a model, but a rendering of the Y with this superimposed on the land next to it,
Mm-hmm.
just to see how it looks, because that's going to be, you're going to see that it's going to be big.
Well, just relative scale.
Scale,
Scale of-
architectural style. Doesn't
Yeah, you
cover
wonder
the
if,
wall.
Well, if nothing else, I reserve my decision just if I had to just go out and take another look at it.
yeah.
Look at the Y again, then been by there a little bit. And then, I just think it's too far the other way, but, maybe once I look at the Y again, guess they have been there, or agree with
See
his
that,
idea.
yeah.
If they want to do that, it's fine too.
Doug, can you do a road view of the wall from 250?
Yep.
You can do anything.
I can do most things. That's not a shot at you, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, yes it is.
Notice I asked Doug.
He's a whiz with the computer.
Might be able
The
to.
glass, the flat
You
roof.
think you can get down the
Yeah,
road?
it's more
Doug?
modern. I don't know
No,
whether
but what I
we're-
might try
Oh,
doing
see, the Y's
is
more modern?
get on
Yeah, the light
pictometry
one, yeah.
Aerial.
and do the pictometry.
The other one's just so
Um,
rural. I don't know if it really.
I know there's a meeting between the architects, and this came about from discussion about that North Face store at Victor.
Oh yeah, right.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, to kind of tie in that type of look. And I think that's where this came from.
North Face, though, uses
Stone.
stone, almost a cobblestone veneer.
Stone, wood, and glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, that's right near Allentown, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's real, it's rural, I think, out there, as opposed to the Y.
Yeah, I mean, you're across from the mall, so.
Yeah, I know, there's a lot of bricks there.
Yeah, that's not really doing justice.
No,
It's
Might be a little
at the
bit
back, to this side of the road, it's at the back a little bit. You don't really get to see the mall much.
Although
Doug,
that,
if you go
that
to
whole
aerial of
area,
this, there's a 3D view.
No, it's
So
not.
we got brick, stone, flat roof, glass
Let's go to Maps 3D.
on the
Oh,
wall.
that's why that one doesn't do it. I didn't realize you had heard of it.
Well, it does do the 3D view sometimes, but it doesn't do the new Google Earth.
Oh,
Um,
you want that?
this computer struggles to do that, so.
Oh, it doesn't do
it's
that.
All right, so we can
Okay.
suffice to say there's mixed reviews on that? Would that be
Very well put, thank you.
correct?
Correct.
Okay.
can you do a street view on North Face?
Yeah.
And then there's some newer buildings on the opposite side of the road too, which are new, but they're more period looking. And then-
Restaurants across the street.
No, I think it used to be like a spa or something in there.
There you go. Main Street extension. Of course, it looks like a snowflake.
Mhm.
Under construction.
Yeah.
Old Street.
But it's opening soon.
So you got the stone, you have
Yeah, the plain wood.
vertical wood.
There you go. Oh, go back. There you go.
It's a slightly newer view.
Yeah, I
Obviously,
remember
obviously it's a bigger building as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I don't even think that looks like the proposed.
Can you go up that little street that's maybe the little guy isn't up there?
It's
Yeah,
a
on
tour.
High Street.
To the Tudor house with doors in
Okay.
front.
Another way.
You say this stuff?
Look at that.
Why, what's up behind that?
Right there. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, if you go down the road,
Yeah.
you can see there were,
Bottom line on this, we say we want this, but
Thank
they're
you.
not even, and this is gonna be further discussion down the road, but
Okay.
they don't even wanna build this yet, so,
Okay.
that's the kind of thing that 2 years, 3 years down the road, they say, oh geez, no one wants to be in that building, we gotta build this other thing. And all this conversation could be moot. So those are things that we still need to work through in terms of, all right, how is the commercial part that is a requirement of the district going to actually be done and implemented? And, it's sort of a chicken and egg thing, but
I mean,
there's got to be some sort of answer.
Right.
There has to be some sort of commitment, some sort of answer on the commercial piece so that we have some idea of, it's going to happen. So,
now would this be phased possibly in the future where we get another look before it actually got built?
So
yes.
Well, yeah, there's
Most
a-
likely, yes.
Okay.
there's a couple things with this. The applicant has stated that, their goal, because this is an active site, it will be an active site, they don't want to start construction twice. The goal is to build both commercial out parcels while the other units, the residential components, are either being completed or are starting to be occupied. But they don't want to open up construction twice on this. The other part of this too, if there is a change requested by a future tenant or the first tenant based on what was proposed, the board does have its, the modification process that we have, similar
Okay.
to what we did with Baytown Plaza and their outbuildings. When those come in for their, they have final approval for their location, but they're playing the balancing game of max square footage. So as tenants come into like Baytown Plaza, they have an overall building design concept that they adhere to, but they do come in for informal review with the board in a work session setting just to bless any changes that are necessary on the building. And that option, conditions of approval, could also be implemented with something like this too. Just
So,
as
for instance, if it was approved like this, and the applicant wanted to change it, the tenant wanted to change it, it would, like you say, just come back in and say, we want to change it this way to get our approval.
there's
Right.
It would have to come back to us.
yes.
Yeah.
They would.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and we would have conditions of approval like that, but I completely understand AJ's point, is that we look at, and this has been a point of the board the whole time, is to try to get as close to
Right.
what will be built there as possible, with an understanding of the types of tenants as they get closer, of what could potentially be there, just so the board has an idea of that tenant type, as well as parking demand, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we've all experienced a few projects that we think it's going one way and it ends up going another way. And it's not always pretty. So, just want to do our best to avoid that. So, I guess one suggestion I'd make to the rest of the board members is, why don't we, it sounds like everybody's semi-comfortable, but not completely comfortable with this. Is that a fair statement? But does anybody know exactly what would make them comfortable? I can't say that I would. I mean, I'm getting these, and I feel bad asking for more changes, but I'm still not 100% there. And maybe a good idea would be for us to, independently drive around, take some pictures of places that we really like, and would say, hey, that would, maybe three examples of something that we like, 3 examples of something that we hate. And we take a look at them. You know, just,
Yeah, there are examples of successful mixed-use developments and
you know, yeah, there are.
combination of uses in the area. You don't have to travel far for that.
Right. So, a suggestion, maybe it could help us get
Inspirations.
more direction, and we're not spinning our wheels, we're not spinning their wheels.
I guess
We move forward on that.
my follow-up to that is
Yeah.
overall, and well, 2 things. Overall, do you feel that this is a step in the right direction based on previous renderings?
Overall, absolutely yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
With that being said, would you like us to send this to your consultant for confirmation of his recommendations that were put forth in his memo, and for any
Yes.
future recommendations potentially?
Yes. Yes. All right.
With that being said then, since there's no more to talk about with the site plan at this point, it was more about architecture tonight, the board can table the application pending response from the architectural consultant and continue to review at the next meeting.
Yes, and we need to get our head around, or our hands around the commercial component.
Yep. So ask for any information from the applicant, what their plans might be now that we're getting closer to the kind of final layout of the buildings. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there should be a lot of people resident there to support some type of business. So that plus the YMCA traffic should have some idea of what could, there's got to be somebody that's willing to commit, take a shot at it.
Okay. We can communicate that in your tabling resolution.
Okay. And then continuing in terms of the site plan details, you know,
Yes.
what's happening with the big grass rectangle?
We did get,
You know, what do we actually do with that? So that's just
More
something that we need to
clarification.
make sure that we're covering, so that we know what we're,
I know they've started to do revisions. You did get an updated landscape plan at the last, as part of your last submission. It did incorporate some more
Site amenities.
high-level amenities with
Yes.
a new design to the pathway, as you saw. So if there are any more changes, just for those to be communicated to the board.
right?
Okay.
All right, so with that, are we good? Anything else you want to cover on that?
No.
All right, so I guess I'll move to table.
I'll second.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
All right.
Knauer,
Aye.
Tidings,
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Application. Give me that back.
Which one we got?
Next application is for Penfield Animal Hospital at 1672 Penfield Road. There's a public hearing for this at the last meeting, and the board directed staff to draft an approval resolution. We've received that along with the parts 2, parts 3 of the EAF, and we have received an updated site plan as well following the public hearing with the suggested landscaping around the relocated backup generator that will be moved to the lower rear third of the building, if you will. They're going to pull the pavement as they would have to pull out some anyways for the concrete foundation for the generator, so that's going to be landscaped around that to provide just a buffering element around that area.
That was a natural gas generator, correct?
Yes. We have a draft approval resolution.
Just to clarify, no other concerns from the board then on this application?
No.
Pretty
Yeah. Can I see?
straightforward.
the variance is no longer required, I would move to approve the EAF.
I'll second it.
Did Terry take that
Gotta
one?
fight.
I get it.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings,
Aye.
And I'll also move to approve the draft resolution.
I'll second it.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Terry, I'll be in touch with the follow-up steps, and I'll reach out to Dave Cox as well as we go into our post-approval process.
Very good, thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Yep. Have a good evening.
You too.
And our final,
Now we got this other place to deal with.
staying out of the view of the camera, these guys, not a bad
Yeah.
move. Our final tabled application is for the continued review of the sketch plan for the mixed-use development known as Atlantic 250 or Penfield Crossings. A lot of information was conveyed to the board during their presentation. Had 3 weeks to absorb that information, review the materials. A lot of new architecture was shown, as Doug has on the screen. Significant improvements in the site plan layout as well, and if we can jump to that when you get a chance, Doug, that would be great. It's not in that, you gotta go back a folder. Sorry, in the active projects folder is where my brain is. Significant changes from, this is a recap, and this was included in an applicant's letter of intent. There were two in your original files. The later dated one had a breakdown and a summary of the changes with this project compared to the first sketch plan that you heard earlier this year. The major portion of that is 8.3, and we'll just I'll walk you through it on the site plan. So first and foremost, you see a big change to the Zone A area near the intersections of Atlantic and 250, where there once was, in the first sketch plan, a lot of detached, large commercial buildings. And the board spoke, that was not the desired look, it was the intent of the mixed-use district. The applicant has addressed that in a very good response by, where are you going?
Just pull up the old one as well.
Oh, the old one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just
I got
pulled up
lost
the old
in
one
that.
as well.
Thank you. So here we go, there was an example of the first sketch
Original
plan in that
sketch.
area, yep. And now as we go to the second one, thank you, Doug. We have more of a village setting now here with this with a series of vertical mixed-use buildings that have commercial on the ground floor, residential above, in a compact but balanced area with parking both on street and shared within for both the commercial and residential uses. You have a sort of a pocket park, if you will, in the middle of that with kind of a gazebo shown there, but also kind of an active space for that area. A number of both single-family, duplex, some triplex, quadplex buildings as all townhomes that, as you see, are kind of arranged in
A village street, kind of.
village street, but
setup.
also their own sort of like neighborhoods, if you will, throughout the development. Again, this is a 75-acre site, so there's a balancing act of the uses and how they connect, in that fashion. If we zoom out again, the access to this site has been modified as well. You have 4 access points to the site, 2 from Atlantic and 2 from Route 250. The former application had less access points, and it had one, well, actually it had the same number on that portion of the site, but it had one out to Penfield Center Road. That was removed and it was revised. It's now a buffer area, which is Zone C was recommending in the mixed use manual. So you have just 8 units in that area at the northern portion of the site, which loops around, and that loop that you see to what is the northernmost portion is actually a pathway. The driveway is south of that, so there's at least 100 feet of space from the right-of-way to the edge, which is actually the front facade of the residential units there. So that was a significant change as well, changing the accessibility. There are a reduction in the multi-floor, multi-story apartment buildings. There's been a reduction in that as well. And to the south side, or I'm sorry, to the east side, the 25-acre site, that's been revised as well. It incorporates a vertical mixed use in there now, and it also has matching access points to the west side of the project site. A number of other changes have been incorporated as well. More pedestrian access throughout the site to circulate people in and around. There's the 5-acre park area still exists today with a stormwater pond in there. It's both functional and aesthetic.
Scroll back up for a second. Stop, Those are 5-foot elevation lines.
Yep. One thing they did mention. Sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
You got something?
Well, I was just thinking about the slope of those proposed roads. But
Oh yeah.
what is it? What's it gonna be like in terms of reality? Am I thinking it's gonna be steeper than it actually is?
Probably not.
What do you mean, probably not? It's
Won't
not
be
steeper
as
than I
steep.
think it's
Well,
gonna
it's a long
Or
curve.
It's steeper than I think it's gonna be.
It's gonna be less steep. It's gonna be
And
flatter.
how do you know how steep I think it's gonna be?
Well, that's.
You talking
we
black
gotta-
diamond or green square? What are we talking about here?
Well,
Or green circle?
It's gonna be a bunny hill, but no.
well, is this something to be concerned about?
No, because I think you can play with the driveway access, and you make them, how they sweep is, the longer the sweep, the flatter the slope's going to be, because you have longer to deal with, you have a longer road to.
Okay,
Address the grade.
Right.
got it. Okay.
And they're going to have to pick a grade to start setting the buildings at anyway, so it's just. That's
So
just
that's
the
not-
existing topo, so.
All right, that's not an initial red flag for
No.
you. All right.
And they did mention that during their public hearing, they're trying to use the grades they have and make
Mhm.
the sites balance in terms of earthwork, and they've started to place the locations of the buildings too, based on the preliminary elevations they have for the site. So they're getting closer and closer with each version of the plan, if you will, to that final layout.
Yeah.
And actually, the north end is a lot flatter than the south end, so
Mm-hmm.
you have basically 2 contours where you have 3 on the other end, but you can make it work out.
Can you zoom out to the whole picture?
The other question I had before you keep going, on the west side, is that the existing tree line on the western border?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the gun club is the next use to the west.
Got it. All right. Go ahead, continue on what you were saying, unless I killed your train of thought.
Speaking of the gun club,
Here we go.
the range faces north, right?
Yes.
That's a
North
good-
and kind of like northwest.
Okay.
Faces east, they're like 50 feet from the property line.
Oh.
Hey, that's not true.
From an aerial, you'll see that they've actually buffered themselves quite well from their eventual neighbors. They've bought the property around them to provide that buffer, and they've actually been a very good neighbor to us here at Town Hall. We lost him
I
there.
did think Doug was good with the computer.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Maybe
I used to
maybe
control the
Mike should
network.
try.
Oh, now he's blaming the network.
Yeah. Going for that high res look.
Pilot error.
It's like me blaming the computer.
That's right. Yeah.
My last piece that I have is that the applicant also presented their traffic impact study, and the town engineer sent that to their traffic consultant with Bartlett Judas and had that reviewed at a high level. We have received comments. You got those early this week after our drop was sent to you. We have their responses based on the applicant's study that was presented and provided. And we did provide that to the applicant a couple days ago as well, so that's kind of new information for the board. They've lost that. So that's probably the last update I have. Again, a lot of it was kind of absorbing the information that was presented, and that really is the new piece of information, is our memo from our consultant for the traffic review. As we know, traffic is going to play a major role in the development of all mixed use and this project as well.
Right.
And a lot of it comes down to the New York State DOT when it comes to those traffic mitigation measures, because both roads are obviously owned and controlled by the state.
There is one bulleted item in the traffic assessment, the traffic study assessment that B and L.
Bartlett Judas.
Okay. The very last bullet is, and something we've never talked about, but and it's early in the process, but I don't want to lose this, is running a sidewalk from the north side of the property up to the town hall.
South side.
The south side. South side, on the north side of the road.
Yeah. That's something that's been in our view as well.
Okay.
Providing that connection, we've already spoken with the gun club as well too.
So it'd be
And
okay to
they're-
go across their property? I don't know if there's a right of way there or not.
We may have an easement there already, actually.
Is there?
If we don't, they've been aware of the district formation and projects like this early on, and they were supportive of working with us to establish a sidewalk connection from town hall
Okay.
to this project site.
Yeah, they could just
Nature
dump
trail
into
right behind through the
Through
woods there.
where the ball fields are.
where they shoot.
No, not where they shoot. North
I
side.
mean, it is a
286.
target practice facility, right?
See how fast you can run.
I'm sorry.
It's a gimme. It's out there for you. You had to take it.
It's
It's
so
out there.
easy.
AJ.
So again, this is in review for sketch plan, and I'll just open it up to the board for.
Can you bring up are you kicked off the network or something?
No, I got it back.
Can you bring up the phasing plan? So think about initial comments. We need to begin drafting a letter, a sketch plan letter for them. And frankly, to me, it's one of the most comprehensive sketch plans I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But
Pretty complete.
Yeah.
Well, I think they listened to us from the first sketch plan to the second sketch plan.
mm-hmm.
They listened to our input. More importantly, they listened to the citizens of the town, their input.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they have really made accommodations to what was voiced at the first public hearing sketch plan.
I would agree. When you look at the difference between the two plans, it's pretty significant.
And I think this is a much, much better plan.
I would agree.
So,
I think that once again, the commercial component of mixed use, the whole district was created so that there'd be a truly mixed use district, and we're back to the chicken and egg
yeah.
thing. Can you get commercial before you have people there to support the commercial? And we have to get our head around that and our arms around it or whatever, and come to something that's going to be fair for everybody, the town, applicant, people living there.
what's nice about this plan is that in phase one you do see two, which kind of ends up being like four, if you will, but two of the vertical mixed-use buildings are incorporated as part of phase one as you go down the main road.
Yeah.
Main roadway, losing my words, and continuing to the community center that leads into the park area. So it is good to see that there's an initial commitment for those uses there, which will have commercial on the ground floor, residential above, to kind of set the tone of what's to come in phase four when you have the units.
Yeah, I personally would love to see phase 4 come earlier. You don't know what the overall phasing plan is in terms of timeline, but it would be, I mean, that's kind of the spirit of the whole district, and I think that should be part of the letter.
Or even if
That
it
if we could,
was,
you know, how do we,
even if
get
it was a
that?
portion of that phase 4,
yeah,
like, you know, maybe not build out, I don't know how many buildings are there, 12 or 10 or 12, but at least 50% of them is part of, you know, phase 1.
yeah, could you put the east side of the main road structures up? You know, is the front door to the east, to that square, or is the front door to the main road? Or is it two front doors? On those. So
Yeah.
that could be,
Yeah, or do something so, again, a portion of it was in phase 1.
So maybe word it more broadly to say something along the lines of, you know, the board has concerns with phase 4 and the timing of the construction of the commercial component of the project, and can find, you know, propose some ways to address the board's concern about that being built too late in the process or not at all, to make sure that it is built.
yeah, I think that could be,
I can work with that.
so if we can get a letter started, and maybe the next meeting, hopefully get it
Finalized.
finalized.
Okay.
So we have some of the main components. Jump in if you have.
Are we still
other-
talking about the same size as originally planned, or the same numbers, or is it decreased at all? Or?
The number of residential units has actually increased slightly because of the loss of, the reduction rather, of the commercial space. So to fill that portion of it, there was an increase in the residential unit, dwelling units.
What were the numbers on that?
We have on the west side, we have 517 and 247 on the east. That's a mix of the townhomes, the vertical mixed use, which are kind of like second story.
Front down,
Yep.
apartment up.
Yep, second story apartment, condo, however you will, and then the 3-story apartment buildings.
First sketch.
Yeah, what was the first?
Was that the original one? Then I'm reading it wrong.
No, you're right.
Oh, that was
There's one
A3,
right.
okay. Thought that math made sense to me, so I wasn't losing my mind
That's
yet.
the first one. This is, so it's 480.
So in compare, like I said, it was
468.
slight
468
increase.
goes up to 517.
Yeah.
Right, so it's about 10% roughly.
50.
50, what? 50?
Yeah, 10%.
About 10%. 12% maybe.
And really barely any change to the east side.
And the new commercial percentage is at what?
I don't have
is
a
that
hard
on there?
percentage number, but
Is it on here?
no.
Where?
The floors, like the square footage or whatever of
Commercial to residential.
commercial to residential?
It was
I thought it was.
Earlier, it was 70% residential. It's not 30% commercial.
The thing here that's tricky is you have multiple zones that we're dealing with mixed use. So when we look at Zone A and how that's laid out, it's actually slightly modified here because of the apartment building, and Zone
Right.
A is where we ask for the most density. When you look at the number of buildings in Zone A and the footprints associated with those and their area, along with the residential units, we reviewed it and it did meet the minimum.
It did.
It did meet the minimum requirement for commercial to residential in Zone A. Zone B, as a reminder, is the goal is to provide a variety of residential housing options, which this project does do successfully. And Zone C, as I stated earlier, is a buffer area where it's kind of our transition back to the RR1 and the RA2 areas.
One other comment that we got from, I think, some people in the public, and I guess I'd like to know, in terms of the entire site being rental units versus owned, there are arguments that are made on the side that, all right, if you own the house, you take better care of it. And then there's the flip side argument that you have one management company taking care of it, they're going to take care of everything. I think we should at least ask about the feasibility, or what could the numbers look like with a portion of it being owned. You know, has that been done anywhere? Does it work? Does it not work? And why?
Just to follow
Yeah,
up
you
on
know,
that. Just to follow up on that public comment.
Yeah. Anything else while we're thinking about this?
I had one, I guess, piece of information for staff. In the mixed-use areas, we talk about infrastructure, and with this applicant, we mentioned
Oh, the charging stations?
charging stations on the site. Well, just this week, it was announced, and I can read this. There is a Charge Ready New York program, and I'll read this. Through Charge Ready New York, NYSERDA provides rebates of $4,000 per charging port for level 2 charging stations installed at public, workplace, and multi-unit dwelling parking lots. So
Do you have any idea what a charging station costs?
it's going to depend on
How fast?
how much conduit and how far. They're level 2s, so they're like what we have here at the town hall.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what level, level 1, level 2?
It's a level 2. So the charging stations themselves are going to be a couple $1,000s plus the install cost. So if
Okay.
it's done on a larger scale basis, from the very beginning of a project, it sounds like this funding would come pretty close to paying for it.
Now, is there a difference between new construction and retrofit
No.
type work with this program?
No.
Because, you know, with a lot of times the new construction type stuff is a lot less
Yeah.
incentivized.
Yep. And up
But it's
till
the same, doesn't matter?
It's the same. And up till now, the NYSERDA programs have only applied to municipalities. So a lot of this funding came out of the Volkswagen settlement,
You don't say.
$15 billion, and New York State got $125 million, roughly, of those dollars to fund what was supposed to be more clean energy type projects. So this is one of the programs now that NYSERDA has put in place. Now,
So if, just, you know, let's say they could get these installed for $3,500, they get a $4,000 rebate, and they could make $500 on each one.
I think on the application, you have to put your numbers in. So it's probably a max.
So at least you gotta say that it's costing at least.
Exactly.
Up to 4,000,
Yeah.
Just
It's,
working extra hours.
yeah.
actual
Yeah.
cost up to 4,000.
So if you were putting in 8 of them, you know, on the average, because some are gonna be farther from panels than others,
Yeah,
whatever, you know, I think you could probably,
here's the
No.
installation of all of them.
Yeah.
Boom, some
Yeah.
cost
Yeah, I
more,
think
some
there's
cost-
definitely some feasibility for that in the village setting, you know, where you're gonna see your shared parking.
yeah.
You know, and then obviously with the
Yeah,
residential
yeah.
component of it, the apartments, yes. The residential components, everyone's being provided a 2-car garage for the most part in there, or at least 1 covered garage, if not 2 covered garage spaces. So, you know, we have those elements there where it's kind of, you know, if you need it, you can retrofit it. If you know,
Right.
if there's an option within the management company to offer that, you know, for someone who does have an electric vehicle.
What's the draw on that? How many amps?
Typically, the stations that they're doing now are gonna be 7.2 kW, and if it's a dual, in some cases, it would be 15 kW. Some of them, so the wiring is minimal. If a second car plugs in, it will split the power. So typically, you
So
can
what does
do
that mean?
it.
Does that mean that it takes twice as long to charge?
It would take twice as long to charge.
Okay.
But if there's 1 car there, then it's taking the full amount. So it's typically on a 40 amp, 208 or 240 volt circuit.
How long
for
does
each
this
one.
program go? Is there a
Probably
timeline?
until the money's run out. I haven't had a chance because this is so new.
Yeah,
But usually with any of the NYSERDA programs, they have a bucket of money.
yeah, once
So-
it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, it's gone. So with any of these programs, I found with my experience, as soon as they're announced, if you can go in there and apply,
Right, so you get a pre-approval.
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
money's set aside for your project.
exactly,
So even if it takes a while to get it in, it's there.
yeah,
So that you're not promising something, assuming that you're going to get the rebate, and then
Yeah.
the rebate's gone.
I'm sure there's
You get it,
an expiration, it has to be used by such and so a time, but right now, it just came out, and I don't think very many people, you know, the word hasn't gotten out too much yet. So it's called Charge Ready New York, and I think if you just Google NYSERDA with Charge Ready New York, it will pop up.
yeah. It's
Is
good
there a
idea
way to
look
put
into.
a meter on those so you can say, charge it to your credit card or something? Or is it just a free
There's all sorts of ways that
Whoever owns it.
municipalities are doing it. It can use a credit card, a swipe card.
Okay.
It could be a special parking place that you have to have a parking pass for,
Okay, that you purchase.
that you would purchase. It all depends on what the site wants
Okay.
to do.
I was just curious.
City of Canandaigua put one in. It was free for a while, and now they're charging. It's basically just the amount for the electric. So they're charging 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's, totally fair. It's not a money
Yeah.
grab or anything.
Right, they're paying for the electricity.
They're basically paying for the electricity, but the units can be set up any way you want.
I had heard a few weeks ago that there's a movement to eliminate gasoline-powered engines in some certain number of years. But
Some countries have made that pledge. Yeah.
Some countries have already started eliminating cars, period. In certain cities,
Yeah.
not in the country, but certain cities.
Yeah.
I forget what city it was, they've done that, and the people love it.
On the topic of cars, would you like the applicant to provide you with some responses to the traffic
Traffic.
memo that was received?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just, in response with everything that they put forth with their traffic study you know, like you said, this is a very detailed sketch plan. Probably it's surely more information than we're used to seeing at a sketch plan review, which is not a bad thing. But considering the scale of the project, while we're drafting the sketch letter, and gathering, you know, your comments from tonight and putting it in there, have the applicant take a look at that and give you just their initial feedback to that.
Yeah, any other comments right now on this while we're looking at it? Okay, so I guess my proposal would be to, I don't know, table our discussion of the drafting of the letter?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Ask
So that we can
staff to prepare
begin
a
it?
draft
I'd like
for
to-
review next meeting and further consideration of other
Perfect.
topics. You have to wordsmith.
Somebody want to move that?
We're recording.
I'll second.
Sorry, that was Bastian and second by Knauer.
Yep.
Yes.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
All right.
Knauer,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Okay.
One last thing. It's a new business item. Sorry for the delay. Just today we received a plat map, and Don, I believe it's in the active project folder. Should be down in the PV stuff, action items. There we are. The residential homes of the Shute family on Plank Road, they're requesting just a 10-foot shift of a property line from the parcel on the right to the parcel on the left, and that's it. No new lots are being created. It's not part of the purchase development rights conservation
good with it?
easement.
You guys are
Staff
good?
has no issues with it.
Somebody move it?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second
Hetzke,
Aye.
Bastian,
All right.
Knauer,
Aye.
Tidings.
it. Aye.
Okay.
Okay. All I gotta do.
You can sign it when you're ready. And with that, we have no other business tonight. We do, just as a reminder for the public, we sent out a notice that there is no public hearing for the month of October. We have no new applications to discuss then. The October meeting on, what date was that?
The second Thursday in October.
Yeah, that one. Second Thursday, the 11th. There we are.
Will be a
That
work
will be
session?
a work session meeting.
Okay.
That will begin at 6:30.
All right, with that, if there's no further business, we will adjourn. Okay, see everybody in a couple weeks.